Hi, I'm Agent Ford. Do you think you can help me solve another true crime mystery? Friends. When we think about them, we instantly remember family. The countless happy moments we share with friends often become memories we cherish throughout life. However, not all friendships have happy endings. Today, we have the unfortunate case of Shukri Abdi, who died under mysterious circumstances after drowning in Barry's River, Irwell, in Greater Manchester. Shukri Abdi was a refugee from Somalia. She arrived in the UK after fleeing Somalia with her mother, Zamzam Tour, and her 4 siblings. In January 2017, as part of the UN-vetted Vulnerable Persons Resettlement Scheme, Shukri Abdi and her family were relocated to Bury, a small town in Greater Manchester. After the move, Shukri and her 4 younger siblings started attending Broad Oak High School, now known as Hazelwood High School. This is where any family's worst nightmare begins. According to Shukri's Broad Oak High School teachers, Shukri was a happy child and a joy to have in class. She was lively, chatty, and a bit of a cheeky sort, who would try and push her boundaries in every class. Despite being painted as an energetic and cheerful person, some students hated Shukri. After being enrolled in the new school, Shukri was subject to severe bullying. Zamzam Tour, Shukri's mother, was well aware of the fact that her daughter was being bullied. She had even made reports to Shukri's school, but they did not take the matter seriously. The bullying continued unhindered. It got so bad that on one occasion, Shukri was pushed into oncoming traffic by her peers. Fortunately, nothing serious happened to her at that time, but things were soon about to take a dark turn. On June 27, 2019, Shukri Abdi went to school like any other day. It was a hot summer's day. Children in Bury, Greater Manchester, were looking forward to the school's summer holiday, which was just around the corner. Long summer nights, hazy days, barbecues, and sitting in parks for hours doing nothing with friends. That was all the children could think of at the time. However, something didn't sit right with Zamzam Tour when her 12-year-old daughter did not return home from school at the expected time, between 3:15 and 3:45 p.m. After feeding her other children, Zamzam went to Shukri's school to look for her. Zamzam waited in vain as 2 women went to see if Shukri was in any after-school programs, but they could not locate her. At this point, a terrible fear began to creep over Zamzam as she started to panic, unable to locate Shukri. She immediately reported her missing child to the local police at 7:30 p.m. What she didn't know at the time was that just half an hour before her report, a call to 999 was placed about a girl who had gone underwater and not resurfaced. The body discovered in the River Irwell less than 4 hours later was missing 12-year-old Shukri Abdi. An investigation of Shukri's death begins. However, within a few hours, Greater Manchester Police issued a statement that ruled out the possibility of suspicious circumstances surrounding the case. Shukri was said to have drowned after going into the water to cool off. Now, this is when things get suspicious. According to Shukri's family, the young girl couldn't swim and was afraid of water. Why would a child with a fear of water be in the river playing with kids? Shukri's case was closed after 2 weeks of investigations, as the police fully believed her death was nothing more than a tragic accident. Since then, activists and campaigners like Maz Salim, Shabnam Kulsum, and the family's legal team have fought for Shukri's death to be investigated appropriately. The lack of urgency and seemingly indifferent demeanor of the police only added fuel to the fire as questions from Shukri's family, friends, and onlookers quickly began to arise about what actually happened to Shukri that day. After the extensive protests across the country, the family won the right to a proper inquiry. The Independent Office for Police Conduct also opened their investigations into the handling of Shukri's case in August 2019 and finished it in January of 2020. Still, they did not disclose their reports until the inquest was concluded. At the time of her death, there were 4 children with Shukri, both in and around the river. These children and a 5th child who witnessed the events testified to the inquest via video link about their version of the incident. For legal reasons, the children connected with this case can only be referred to by a number since their names are still undisclosed. Throughout the inquest, it became increasingly clear that the children in question did not know each other very well. In fact, 3 of the 4 children had never even met Shukri before June 27th, when she drowned. On the day of Shukri's death, Child 1, Child 2, and Shukri decided to go to a water park with a slide. But what actually happened was they went on a trip to Primark, had dinner at Child 1's home, and went to the Irwell's riverbanks. On the other hand, Child 5 suggested that there was more to the case than some youthful energy. At around 3 p.m. the same day, Child 5 had witnessed a disturbing situation. Child 1 and Child 2 reportedly approached Shukri in a sports changing room where they started pushing her around. Throughout the incident, Shukri was quiet and looked at the wall and the floor. Child 5 described it as being a bit horrible. Child 3 and Child 4 coincidentally met up and agreed to go to the river with Child 1, Child 2, and Shukri. All the kids were friendly towards each other, and they seemed to be no problems. Child 4 said that Shukri seemed not really bothered about going to the river, and that when Child 1 asked Shukri about her swimming level, she replied that she was all right at it. The kids all went into the water. At some point, Child 1 and Shukri proceeded to the area where the water was more profound. Shukri's horror would turn to reality when Child 1 let go of her hands and swam back to the riverbank with the other children. Shukri, who had been holding Child 1's shoulder for the entire time they were in the water, was now left alone and started drowning almost immediately. The other kids remember Shukri shouting for help, but when she went underwater for the second time, they knew Shukri wouldn't make it out alive. Child 3 ran to get a stick to pull Shukri out, while Child 4 immediately jumped in the water and swam to the area where Shukri drowned. But they soon realized that they would not be able to save her, so they ran to the nearby Bury police station to alert them. In the meantime, Child 1 and Child 2 did nothing to save the drowning Shukri. In fact, Child 1 was reportedly laughing the entire time until the police arrived. However, according to Child 1, Shukri started pulling her legs while they were in the water. Unable to swim in that situation, Child 1 pushed Shukri to the side where she went to a much deeper end. Initially, Child 1 thought that Shukri was messing around and said she and another girl referred to as Child 2 started laughing. But then they realized Shukri was in danger. They stopped and called 999. The inquest was adjourned on February 28, 2020. It was resumed in November with a verdict on December 4th that Shukri's death was accidental. According to Joanne Kersley, the coroner of Manchester North, Child 1 entered the water fully aware that Shukri could not swim. In an area of deeper water, Child 1 started to swim underwater and Shukri panicked. Child 1 struggled to swim and probably pushed Shukri off, making her go underwater, where she died. The coroner said that Child 1 had the duty to care for Shukri and breached that duty because she could have been able to foresee the risk of drowning. The Independent Office for Police Conduct's report was published when the inquest concluded, finding no evidence that the police's response was racially motivated in Shukri's case. Zamzam, whose child was taken away from her in a system that doesn't listen nor care about her and in a system that's indifferent to her life, thinks otherwise. She believes that her child's death was the result of severe bullying. In January 2021, Shukri's family began civil action against the police. Zamzam Tour says the fight for her daughter will continue. Comment down below what you guys think about this case. The death of Shukri Abdi was a deadly cocktail of social issues. It is hard whether to say Shukri will ever truly receive justice, but What activists have achieved thus far in their fight for answers is remarkable. We as fellow humans failed to protect Shukri, and it's undeniable that we cannot bring her back. What we can do is try harder so that many more kids like Shukri can be saved. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with your fellow investigators. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a case. With that being said, stay safe, and I'll see you guys at the next crime scene.